Pretty stressful times, but I'm still trying to do the chess. Hopefully, not an idiotic thing to do. I don't even know if they're gonna let me go to St. Louis. I'm supposed to go on Friday. I don't know. I hope I can go. We'll see. Um, I got myself a present. I thought I'd open it just on the show. I don't know if it's gonna be good, not good, or whatever. But I got myself this present. We're gonna see what we got. The chest, the chest layer here needed a little flair. Let's see what we got. I don't know what you guys think. Honestly, I'm gonna say I'm a little disappointed. It looks like when they blew out the picture, the pixels. There wasn't enough pixels to go around. Man, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'll show you guys the original picture, which I really like. But at the moment, I'm gonna say my day got worse. My day got worse. This is the original photo that I was looking to get. Anyways, there it is. Uh, as you all know, this show is really supposed to be about me trying to make it back to 2,500, just mostly to play well, but maybe eventually to play in like the senior championships and that kind of thing. And a key problem for me has been beating the lower rated players, whether it's 2,200 or in this game, like an IM who's fallen a little bit himself, and he's around 23 something FIDE. And the bummer is not only that I'm losing like rating points, but also like if I don't beat them, and I'm playing in some Swiss tournament, then I can't even play the higher rated players where it gets a little bit. Well, it's not. Yeah, it gets more interesting. It gets a little bit more spicy and fun. Not that I dislike playing the lower rated players, but just all the time it can feel like a grind, especially if you feel like you always have to win, like I had in this game. Anyway, so here, uh, yeah, really tough game. And I'm going to go through really the position, what I'm going to call the phase of the game, which is a positional maneuvering phase. This game was, I think, the longest game of my life. It went up 160 move plus. Uh, but we're not going to go the distance, not even close. And the reason it's now possible to do that is you get this 30-second delay thing. So you can play forever, right? I told my friend Josh Fidel I'd be interested in his opinions on this thing. So hopefully he's going to show up in the chat room and help me out a little bit. There's definitely a lot of positions where I want some human input. I'm sure when I put the computer on, it's going to tell me all kinds of stuff. But I want it to, be from a human perspective. I spent a lot of time just on this maneuvering phase. I haven't even got to the end game phase yet. That's going to be maybe, I don't know if I'll cover it on a different show or what. I don't even know if we're going to be able to play chess in the near future. But in any case, today I just want to look at the maneuvering side of this game. And been a couple games recently where I feel like I didn't play the maneuvering part of the game that well, and definitely at moments here, I feel like I definitely could have played better, and I'm looking to improve that. Okay, so first of all, then a little bit about my opponent. He's an old Russian IM. He's been around forever. I can't even remember if I've played him before, but he's definitely been at loads of tournaments that I've been at over the years. And he plays this. Now, honestly, like from an in terms of what I would want to get in the opening in general, this is perfect, right? I'm going to now get a confusing position for both sides where it's going to be rich, and I feel like I'm pretty close to equal already. Um, D4 is a main move here. G3 is also interesting. And I'll just say, like, there was a time in my chess career when I played like this, so I would transpose sometimes to that D4 position. And the bummer for me nowadays is that the computer and everybody kind of knows that this is just very unpleasant for black. So I can't do my little hyper modern game like I would like to do. Okay, but let me just show you what happens. So knight f3. By the way, this game with like you get 100 minutes and then there's 30 seconds increment. So it's a kind of a weird modern kind of chess that I'm just getting used to, even though now it's basically all the tournaments are this way, where, you know, there's no second time control and you're just going to play forever. And obviously, you don't want to get really low on time. And my opponent, one of the things he does well in this game is that he does not think too long. And one of the way I would describe many of his moves in this maneuvering phase of the game that we're about to go through is that he's just holding the position. And by that I mean he's not trying to aggressively come at me. So for example, let's look at my next move, knight f6. A provocative move, and really I would say white's chance to push me around a little bit is to play e5. And the negative of e5 is you open the bishop, but okay, something like knight e4, bishop d3, and here I felt I had two choices. I wasn't even sure which one I was going to do. One of those moves. Okay, so that would have been the ambitious way for white to play, but he plays d3. And right, so a move I would describe as just holding the position. And now we're going to get in like this jujitsu warfare as to the question of whether or not I can break with d5. Right now, I don't think I can because of snip, e5, and if knight d7, I think he's just fine after d4. And if d4, which I'd really like to do, takes this check is really annoying. And I even in my analysis I even tried to make it work with something dumb like that, but obviously knight e5 is going to make me my day unpleasant. Okay, so I can't do it. And here's a kind of a first interesting question. I can play what I did, d6, or I can play something like c5 first. And, you know, the thing about d6, of course, is I'm not going to be playing d5 anytime very soon after I've played d6. So c5 holds the possibility of playing d5. But of course, like the problem is that I have to then wonder about e5. And I think actually e5, it's not that great. It's mostly because it's opening this bishop, but you know, I'd have to evaluate something like this, which I think is actually fine for black, even this position, because when I take the thing, I can come at this pawn. In fact, I think it's just going to die, the pawn, with knight c6. But I wasn't sure about it. It's just also unclear whether it really helps my position to play c5. However, from a practical point of view, if you think about chess from like a maximalist point of view, c5 keeps more options open. For example, whatever white does, he has to worry about d5 a lot more. And he has to worry a little bit more about knight c6. So as long as I deal with the e5 question, it makes the game a little bit more spicy. And that's ultimately what I'm looking to do. In general against a lower rated player, but even against a higher rated player. D6 keeps my life simple, and that now I don't have to worry about E5. Okay, now I thought that the only way white could kind of play for an advantage here would be to try to transpose what I would call the Kramnik line by tempo down. So it would go something like this. And this is a variation that's very theoretical, but white's doubled out here. So it's not obviously not the greatest thing for him. But I thought if white's going to play for an advantage, it's going to have to be something like this. And one of the interesting things about it, and this comes into play a little bit in the current game, is he can hold this threat over my head. He doesn't have to commit to it right away. Okay, but that kind of violence will show you what white's really up to here. In the game, white plays bishop e2. Another example just of a holding move, right? He's just sitting on the position. Bishop e7. Castles, castles. And another sitting move, h3. And the point is to say really that me playing d5 is in general not working. However, there's just an interesting question of to say like, well, won't it eventually be a problem for white? Won't I eventually get to play d5? And let's just say the obvious. It's hard for white to get d4 in because of my pressure on e4. Okay, so c5, bishop e3, knight d7, and now a3. I'm not sure what the guy should do. And one of the interesting things about this position to me is if I was white, I would be just nervous in this sitting around that he's doing, I feel like I've played so many players that if I give them a little time, strong players, if I give them a little time, they're going to hurt me. And what he's doing here to a certain extent is he's taunting me. He's saying, look, you need to, if you don't open the position, what do you actually want to do to me? And a3 is a weird move too because b4 in and of itself is not clear to me that it's that big of an improvement of the white position. Okay, now here let me show you the first kind of bummer for black is whenever black plays d5. The thing is you got to worry about e5, but in addition to e5, by the way, e5 now I think is great for black, and what black needs to see is that he's got this nice trick where if he were to play d4, let me show this first. Snip, 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 snip. I don't think white's doing that bad here. Right. But anyways, because white's going to move the knight and get a Benoni structure with b4. And white's traded off a piece, which is just kind of something he wants to do in the Benoni structure anyway. But the way I can prove is to play knight e5 exclam, then d4, and here I'm definitely a little bit better. Okay, but this is the problem for black, is that in addition to e5, white can play snip, snip, d4, and honestly, although it's a little bit hard to judge exactly what's going on, I feel like white's simply a little bit better because his pieces, they're a little bit more centrally placed. In any case, I don't feel like I have the advantage here. And that brings us to the next question, which is, do I feel that black has the advantage? And it's funny where Josh is already saying that this looks terrible for white. It does look kind of funny, and that's one of the weird things about this position is I felt like, well, I felt like I deserved to be a little bit better. Right. Okay. I think the Benoni position might be terrible. And we might come back to look at a similar-ish Benoni position. But in any case, I think, like I said, he shouldn't go for it here. He should play ED and then D4. All right, so rook c8. And now one thing that's interesting about rook c8, it's good that I showed the trick because you'll see it come back here, is that if b4, now d5 is quite reasonable, I think, because this is no longer possible for white, not only because of CB, but because now when I take the bishop, it's going to be hanging on c4. And then, if e5, here's an example of this Benoni position. I think d4 is inaccurate because of snip, snip, here, here, and either knight b1 or knight b5, and I'm not sure that black is better here. But there's an answer. I mean, even if you did think this was better, I think there's a simpler way to play, which is just snip the guy, then play d4, and that seems to me like we're better. Hi from Portugal. All right. Here we go. So, rook c1 instead of b4. Now here I thought he was clever, right? He's just sitting. The guy's sitting on the position. And now if d5, again, just ed, d4, and I have nothing. So here I feel like I made my first inaccuracy. It might not be the worst thing one's ever seen, but let me show you first what I did. Is I just said to myself, well, my queen needs to get over here. This does allow white to play what he wants, and that's b4. Now, again, this b4 is not the biggest shakes for him. It does give him a little bit of space, but let me just show the problem for me now is that on d5, there's all kinds of trouble on the d file, obviously, and this is not a threat because of knight b5. Okay, so what I think I should have done, or at least, and this is again more, I think, from a practical point of view, is I should have played rook e8. And the point is, if b4, then I can play d5, and if e5, knight e5. And also, see, since I'm preventing b4, which is kind of like his only plan, at least at the moment, yeah, it puts a little psychological pressure on the guy. And rook e8, I feel, is always useful, even though it might not immediately be apparent. It's useful because not only will the e file potentially get opened, but both my bishop and my knight might want to use the f8 square. And let me just say something obvious. Part of black's problem here, and white has a little bit as too, is the pieces are all competing for squares, competing for e7, competing for d7. So that's a hint that I would like at some point to be trading off a dude or two. Okay, like I said though, I don't think it was absolutely miserable to play queen c7. By the way, you can see here, I put the notation up on the side here so you can see the, well, not just what I wrote, but you can see the time. So I'm down to 114. I haven't played that slowly. My opponent's playing very fast. b4, queen b8, queen b3, queen a8. All right, so here's the first interesting moment where I thought I was a genius, okay? I thought I was a genius because it didn't seem obvious to me how the guy was going to stop d5 now. Right? By the way, if I play it now with d5, if nothing else, I think he has got that again, and I feel like he's better. So yeah, this is a really interesting thing. And let me just say, if you were to try, I think if you were going to try to classify this position, you would say it's like something, or I would say it's something like a hedgehog waiting to happen. Because the hedgehog is basically any time d4 happens, and we get the structure with cd. Now, that isn't happening yet, but that's always kind of looming in the air. in the hedgehog as well, black is going to be looking for breaks like d5 and b5 and the rest, just as we are here. But it's wildly different in a couple respects. This bishop terrible, this knight hitting on a wall. And this knight hitting a wall is actually important to note because this guy's getting hit with his own knight over here. They're reduplicating, is the fancy word. Rook e8 I do like as well. When you say DC, which one do you want on DC? After what move, Josh? In the position after d5. Like there, right? Okay. 13 d5. Fair enough. So here we go. d5. Yeah, so let's say what I couldn't figure out in my analysis was what if he does that? And I felt like DC, I know what you're saying. DC, right. I did look at this kind of stuff. And then let's say the dude does that. This is part of my motivation of playing Queen A8, by the way, is that so that I will have a threat. This might be fine, though. The question is how powerful, right, that bishop on c4 is. I'll take on f3. I'm not proud. Okay. Interesting question. And one of the questions here is, do we think white's better, and if so, how much better is he, right? This looks terrible for white, Justin. That might be terrible. It might be terrible. Maybe CD and stuff. Let's look again. So d5 is one of the suggestions. I played Queen A8 pretty quickly. Okay, so there's no e5. Let's say that. E takes, and in addition to d4, I got to worry a little bit about CD. Though, on CD, arguably, then I just can play Queen A8. Though, it's still a question, like, do I have anything? I don't actually know, you know? But it does feel like that's a little something for me. You know, that's just, I'm going to say that's what it feels. It's pretty hard for me to guess, but that's the way it feels. But let me try this d4 again. d4, dc, looks like bishop c4 is forced, bishop b7, gf, c takes. I'm going to guess this was Josh's intuition, something like this. Well, it does look pretty good, honestly. Maybe knight d5. Queen f4 is also interesting. I'm assuming, again, something like knight e2, though. And we got to worry about bishop f7. Isn't this a problem? Bishop f7. He doesn't care about the point. Well, okay. So one of the things good about a position like this is, for me just looking at it, I have no idea what to think about it. For example, maybe take c8, maybe bishop e6. And it comes back to the question, like, when we're here, how much better do I think I am? I thought, and maybe I was wrong about this, that I was better after Queen A8, right? And in particular, that the guy didn't have anything really to do, and that d5 is coming anyway, with hopefully more juice on this diagonal. Yeah. Okay, good. So here we have like the first question. Should I be breaking with d5? And one of the things about playing against, I think, a guy who's just holding the position is once I break, he's going to try to liquidate the frickin' position. So I really don't have that many chances, right? Like my one chance to break, and then he's going to do what we in German we call the Tausch machine, of the exchange machine, and just liquefy the position. Okay. I don't know. And honestly, part of my reluctance with this position is I just don't know what to think about this position. What about CD, for example, I'm unsure about, and the D4 position I'm unsure about. Kostya's in the house. All right. How about knight E5 at some point? Yeah. We're going to get to that, actually. So let me just say, what Kostya's saying is that maybe I play knight E5 someday. And that's definitely on the agenda. Right. And it's going to happen. At the moment, it's not clear, like I wasn't clear where it was going to go from there. And I did want to play D5. Well, let me show you what I did. I think I still have a small advantage. Again, I haven't checked this with the computer or anything. This was just my human take here. So, one thing that the guy did well, because I'm about to blow it here. One thing the guy did well was, he's holding the position, and what I think when someone holds the position, like he's gonna kind of like give me different looks, right? He's giving me different looks and changing the target, slowly moving around with the target. Whereas he himself isn't doing that much right now. That's one of the reasons I don't feel like I want to force the position too much yet, because he's not doing anything. So I want to try to improve. But anyways, this next move, at least on a practical level, was reasonable, where now if D5, then E5 becomes a little bit more of a question mark. And we're going to see he has some other ideas here as well. So a thing about this position now is, again, I have to evaluate D5, and the way it felt to me was that after D5, if he goes this way, I might be willing to say that that's an advantage for me here with knight E6 next, maybe. But then also what I don't understand is if he goes then E5, if I go back to knight E8, I just feel like I don't have anything. And the other idea would be that I feels promising on the surface was snip, snip, knight E4. And then I was looking at this and I was like, well, what if the dude just plays knight B5? And then I just don't know. And part of it is like, not only do I have that problem, but this knight is all of a sudden just no bueno. It's like stuck there. No one knows what it's supposed to do. I look like a pedophile. It's probably true. Bishop F4. I played rook FD8. I think that's fine. I'm still building the position. The guy plays knight B5. And again, with rook FD8, I'm just kind of telling myself, he's not doing anything, and I can take my time. The guy does another move that's similar to bishop F4, and I gave it an exclam, not so much because it's, I think, an objectively a good move, but he's consistently like making it difficult for me to get my dreams out there. Bertels, I'm still down with queen a8. I still think it's okay, but it's true that I'm going to have to play with some skill to make it work. Here he's giving me a question, okay? Do I play knight f8 or do I play knight e8? And knight f8 I felt was really what I wanted to do. But then all of a sudden I was like, what if dude takes? I got to take back this way and just plays rook b1. And as an example, if I get the bishop out of the way and I'm still intending d5, I don't know what to think about this following position. Snip, and then some kind of move like queen c3 or queen b2, and I don't understand why I should be better, right? All right. So, um, I think knight e8 is okay. And dude, again, kind of messes with my mind. So the point of knight e8 is just to say, look, I'm now that your knight's on b5, I can play d5. Well, dude now plays queen a4. And after the game, when I was questioning myself, I felt here, just thinking about it, that I should have played bishop c6. But I couldn't. And by the way, this whole thing, that White's play, I feel it offended my sensibilities a little bit because most of these moves feel like one-trick ponies, right? Like he's not actually doing anything to me. In particular, this move, Queen A4, the only real motivation could be to say, well, I want to induce A6 and say that maybe B6 is kind of sort of a weakness when it's not that big of a deal. It's something, but it's not that big of a deal. But anyways, after the game, I felt the bishop c6 would have been strong, but then when I was looking at it, I changed my mind. And so the variation that I couldn't figure out really is if queen a7, snip, snip. And at first, like from a distance, it felt like maybe black was a little bit better because of the beautiful rook in the a file. But the more I looked at it, I was just like the two bishops plus like this horrendous, I don't know what you want to call it. There's some terrible word for it. Knot of pieces. It does. I don't think I can be better, and I don't think I'm really ever even threatening this because I don't want to give him the business on the C file. So I decided that that wasn't that big of a deal for me. Okay, so I did do this, and now I feel like, even though Josh doesn't like Queen A8, I feel like I've played reasonably up to this point, and now I lose the thread. I lose the thread in this position. What I should do is, I think, just play knight ef6, and I think, at least I believe, that I have a small advantage here, even though it's very complicated. For example, rook b1, d5 now, e5. Just go back. And is it complicated? Yes, but it seems to me like, right, that I should be maybe a little better. If he takes on c5, I can take with a knight and play like d4. It seems fine. And really, when you think about it, it's like I've just been waiting for dude to stop pestering me and then finally do something. And maybe rook b1 is better. If d5, I'm not really, excuse me, queen b3 is better. And one bummer here actually is this again looks like a promising situation for black because it feels like I'm trading off a piece and yada yada. But I wasn't sure at all about what this position meant, especially because this piece seems so hokey. All right. Panda thinks I'm worse here. All right. It's totally possible. Let's see. So this is our game position. And here's where I think misplayed. Now, one of the interesting things, it's interesting to have GM Josh Fidel here, is like it really is, you're playing a game and you have to make one assessment you always have to make is just like, do I think I'm better? And part of the reason for kind of sort of believing I was better is just like, well, it felt like he was making superficial moves, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm better just because, he's pricking me around and not doing all that much. Um, all right. I I definitely don't think I'm worse here, Josh, but if someone wants to say I'm not better, then I get it. One of the reasons I'm pretty sure I'm not worse is that he's not doing anything. There's nothing that he's tangibly doing. I do think that if he is going to do something, it's something like rook b1 and rook fc1, just to improve his stupid rook on f1. All right. So Josh's intuition is that when I did this business of putting the queen here and bringing the rook over, that I'm doing that I'm being a little funny. Okay. I definitely think that what I do next is wrong. I'm pretty sure I feel good about the fact that knight ef6 is the right move, whether or not in the evaluation. I don't know. Let's call it unclear. Um, I played bishop f6, and I'm going to say that's got to be wrong. And one of the things that I get tripped up on a lot, I think, in my own games is when I feel like, and I'm sure this happens to everybody, when I feel like I should be better, I start doing weird stuff to prove to myself and everyone that I am in fact better when in fact I'm not, and then I get in trouble. And this bishop f6 move, there are a lot of positions we can imagine where I start playing on the dark squares, and that actually happens in the game, but at the moment, this knight on e8 is dying. This guy's dying, and he's got to get fixed. So I'm going to say that was poor. He comes back, and I think another mistake here. I play knight f8. What should I do? I think I should just go back. Just admit it that I'm not doing anything. And bring my knight out again. Yeah, queen a4 will also look weird, but I feel if you're just going to sit on the position like the guy's doing, he has to figure out some kind of plan. So this is queen a4 back here, right? Like, if you don't play queen a4, knight c3 or something, right? Maybe, actually, to give a concrete suggestion, maybe rook b1. I do feel, at the minimum, that that's kind of where the white pieces should go, just so that they're set for when the position does explode. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see what happened here. So, dude goes back. I make this mistake. And now I make another mistake. One thing that I'm sure some grandmaster out there has thought about, and I'll give my own theory, but so there's a common thing people say, and it's that mistakes come in pairs. And my theory about it is it's sometimes more than a pair of moves, but like when you lose the thread of the position, right? When your mind has gone amok and you don't know what's going on anymore, you're going to continue making mistakes until you're brought back down to earth, right? And so right away, like, dude plays knight a4, and I'm like, whoa, I guess I got to go back. that was certainly not what I intended. Um, and here's an interesting moment of the game, which has everything to do, I think, with beating this kind of opposition, where a guy who's just holding the position, is the guy goes back. And that, to me, is like a really good example of a guy who's just trying to hold the position. What should he do? Well, he should be improving his business, something like that. And knight c3 is now going to give me time to improve my position. Singtel, you ask a very good question. Yeah, Friedel says 98 means I'm not doing a lot. That's absolutely true. Singtel asks, should I take and play e5? And that was definitely on my agenda. So let's consider that for a moment. I'm not sure which way he should take back. Let's say with the rook. and then e5. And the dream of this is to do something like knight c7, e6, d4. Where I didn't believe it was that this guy's pretty well locked in. This square is tender, and I'm concerned at some point that he'll get f4 in and open up my business. And also, when I was visualizing it, I was seeing that, it takes forever for my knight to get to d4. And, even if it gets to d4, the other knight can go to d4 too. It's just one piece. But I do think this is plausible. And what I liked about it was that I was going to give up the dark square bishop and then put all my pawns in the dark squares. But it didn't feel to me like I was going to be better and maybe worse. That's what I felt about it. What is the plan in this position, Sledgehammer? I wasn't sure. I think he's sitting, like I'm saying. I think the dude is sitting on the position. And by the way, when you sit on the position, I think it can become very dangerous sometimes because your opponent, after a while if you're playing against somebody who hasn't made a threat in forever, right? They haven't made a threat. It's like you start thinking to yourself, well, he's never going to make a threat. And then all of a sudden, if you mess something up, well, it all goes to pot, right? Okay, I think I should play bishop e7 immediately. I did this, which maybe isn't too bad. Dude goes back. Does he have a plan? I don't think so. But I finally played bishop e7, which got to be correct. Right, so I finally admit my mistake. And now this another interesting moment is whether this is good or bad. The guy gives me a different look. Like I've said, he's been giving me different looks. And now he does this another strange move, knight d2. So he doesn't have any plan, but he's just sitting on the position. And from a certain extent, I'm just overjoyed because now I get to keep playing. I get to keep playing the game, which is not only, what I want from a competitive standpoint, but I kind of enjoy playing the game and I enjoy, being able to keep pressing the position. We'll see that in this knight d2, I think he did actually have kind of an interesting idea in mind. But in addition to the idea, which I'll show in a second, maybe the knight comes over to the queen side. Maybe he plays f4. All of these things are kind of in play. I finally went back. So, dude now I think it's got to be a mistake, but it's hard to give advice. Honestly, this whole time I've been thinking he should be playing the rook to b1. But now he has to legitimately worry about d5, right? Okay. All right, this one has got to be a mistake. Bishop g5, and it's very weird. For one, that bishop is his best piece, and he doesn't want to trade it anyway. And I just, I thought for a second I had a trick, but I don't think I do. I played h6. The point of which was if dude played bishop h4, then knight e4, and I felt like I was either a little bit better or clearly better after knight e4. Now, could I have played knight d5? I don't think so, but I want to just double check here. Let's imagine snip, snip, snip. He's taking too much of my stuff with tempo, so I'm going to say no. But the point of knight d5 is righteous in that I do want to trade off his beautiful bishop. White could play f4 instead of taking on c6. True, but taking on c6 is winning the game, right? That's over for me. Okay, so I played h6, and dude doesn't fall for it, plays bishop f4. Okay. Now here's where I could play the first instance where I could play Kostia's idea of knight e5, and we're ended up getting something kind of similar. So I played knight f8, Dude went here. Do I understand that move? Not really. Knight g6, bishop g3, knight d7. And here finally I felt like I was better. I'd unraveled this position a little bit. And now I kind of have a lot of dreams involving dark squares. This one and this one. Okay. Dude kind of surprised me and played knight f3. Notice, he's sitting. He's just sitting on this position. And I think it would have helped me in this game if at some level I had said to myself, oh, right, this guy's a sitter. He is a holder. He's not really into hurting me. He's into just holding onto the position. And in the end, the guy ends up holding the position for 160 moves, the longest game of my life. And then I can't even, then I'm wrecked for the rest of the tournament, right? Okay. Could you show me the notation of the game? Well, that's a good question. I don't have an easy way to do it. Maybe I'll post this game somewhere, though. Okay. I want to say, though, Race to GM, the beginning of this game, not the most spirited, interesting thing you've ever seen. In fact, it's pretty dull. Yeah, and it's really just a question of, like, can I beat this guy? All right, I think I made the right plan. I played knight d5. I want to trade off a minor piece, and I want to start taking over the dark squares. So this all felt correct. And I want to say one of my problems in chess is a lot of times, I feel like, you can imagine here, I've been sitting at the board for hours in the game, not just now, and I feel like, all right, finally, I've got a little something here, and I've expended a lot of energy just to get here. And now, on the next move, I have a moment of incaution here. Copy paste in the chat. Ingenious. Okay, let's do that. Let's copy paste this bad boy into the chat. Good suggestion. Bam. Now I have to say that paste there only goes up to like move 40. I have not done the full thing, and like I said, I'm analyzing the game. It takes me forever to do it. I have 7 pages of written analysis just up to this point. And the end game is like the next phase where I feel like I was winning and blew it and yada yada. But okay, today I wanted to focus on what I'm calling the maneuvering part of this game. Anyways, dudes hits me with this BC move here. And here I I play my response instantly, BC, and it's this interesting moment of incaution where I didn't really... Basically, I'll put it this way. Kostya, ages ago, suggested knight e5, and really I've got a much more pleasant version of knight e5 now. But my basic assumption here was that if he ever played knight e5, that I would simply be much better after DE. And it certainly looks that way, right? It looks like, oh, my rook is a genius. And maybe I am still a touch better. However, I think it would have been much better. There's 2 ways to get, I'm going to call it a small advantage here. One is to snip this dude and then just play BC. This is the sad and lonely way to play it. Bishop f6. Maybe sink it there. Maybe sink it on the dark square. A little bit better for black. Or you can be a little bit more adventurous and play DC. And, for example, let's say queen b6, rook d3. This one feels a little bit harder to evaluate, but I'm going to say definitely better for black. Yeah. Right. Well, that's what we're saying. In this position, I should have taken on f3 first. And the reason I didn't is, like I said, I was not, I didn't believe that white could do this and live. It just felt like when I took back optically, it felt like this was so miserable. This was so miserable. And I still think black is a little bit better here. Just the other positions are better. The other thing I could do, by the way, is I could still play knight e5. And with two intentions. One is to move it back and then knight c6, knight d4. And the other is just to continue to do the dark square maneuvering business like that. And if f4, maybe it's a little frightening, but I don't think I have to worry about it because he's weakening himself. And I've got bishop h4 stuff. Or bishop f6 stuff. I think, I think it's a little too weak, even if it's a little scary to think about with the f4. But like I said, it was let's call it a wrong conception. So now we're kind of like, I think actually a good, one helpful thing I've discovered is like, whenever there's a pawn structure shift, that's a good moment to like, just change your complete assessment of the position. I kind of wish I had done more of that here. Because when you're playing a sitter, first of all, which I hadn't really realized, put it in words that the guy was a sitter, you think about the position, you say to yourself, oh, the guy's got really one weakness and one bad piece. You, on the other hand, your bishop's pretty locked in. This guy's locked in, both by the pawn on c5 and by the pawn on e5. And your rook is nice. It's nice, but maybe not so much. So the guy's already thinking about sitting here, which I think actually, I grew up playing in American Swisses, and it's, playing against most American players, they're not sitters. They're not, nor are they good at sitting. They usually will burn themselves up in flames before they commit to a position that's a little passive like this. Yeah, BC looked super nice. Now, the old Josh Friedel would have played DC. Let's show that decision, actually. So you play knight f3, bishop f3, and then now you got the decision between DC and BC. The old Josh Friedel would have certainly chosen the more dynamic one, but now he's become old and wants this slow, sad and steady chess. Both seem good to me. The younger Friedel, I'm sure, would have taken with the d pawn. Josh doesn't want to open up the bishop pawn g3. Well, he would want to open up his rook. In any case, I do think they're both. I think it's what do the Dutch call it? They call it like a luxury decision. Both are pretty good moves, and maybe it's an interesting argument, like which one you think is better. For whatever reason, the violence, I like the violence appeals to me, especially against a sitter. Right. Actually, let me just say that against a sitter, I wanna make it violent. I want the violence of DC. Both, like I said, are good. All right, let me show you what happened. I suspect a lot of you are looking at this and still saying to yourself, oh, black must be better. Or maybe some of you are. That's certainly the way I felt about it. Watch what dude does. He's just like, no, I'm going to sit now. I'm just going to sit. And here, I think my next move is a little superficial. I played I played knight f4, and I think better would have been something like check to the miserable rook, check to the miserable queen, and then maybe bishop f4. I don't think, though, I can claim that this is too special. I'm not even sure if I'm threatening or want to take on g3. So this, it's really weird to me, honestly, that this. It still feels to me like I should be better because this bishop feels so appalling to me. But the trick of it is, first of all, is that the bishop is denying my rook the d file. And second of all, when I play this move, which is certainly like, the move I want to play, especially like I've just been sitting on the position so long, is that the bishop is dominating my knight, even though it's dominating it from the passive position on f1. Everyone sits against me. It's true. Now, honestly, like I feel, if I had a choice between playing against someone who's going to sit and one of these kids who just comes at me with incredible violence, the sitter to a certain extent is a little bit more pleasant. It certainly feels less dangerous. But the key for me, as I said before, is I need to beat these guys. Not necessarily all the time, but I need to beat them more often. Like I said, not just for the rating, but just so I have a chance when I play the opens of playing, stronger players in the coming rounds after that. What about rook b8 first, doubling rooks on the b file, and then something like bishop g5 or knight f4? Totally fair point, and I think my concern with that was that what the sitter is going to do is he's going to trade all the rooks as well. And I definitely didn't want to trade them all. But we're going to get to kind of an interesting question with that here. It's like he goes back and I do this, and it's like, well, what am I going to do? And my superficial mind is saying to myself something like, okay, let's do this. And the weird thing is, it's not really doing anything. The guy's sitting on me like a beast. I played this. By the way, maybe he had a rook b6 earlier. But the guy's sitting. He doesn't want, in general, he doesn't want to do anything. Watch what he does now. He's gonna sit on me, bro. He's just gonna sit on me. All right, I'm running a little bit out of time. I gotta go pick up the kids from like the coronavirus daycare. But I'm gonna just show what happened here for a second. h4. I did feel like I was a touch better, but I think it's fundamentally like equal here. I don't know exactly what the guy should do. Probably rook b3. In fact, in my notes I said rook b3 equal. The guy got frisky. The coronavirus daycare. I don't know if they have coronavirus, but it's certainly the case that every other virus on the planet is in that daycare. And if coronavirus comes to that daycare, everybody's going to get it, including myself. Now, here's an interesting, let's call it psychological point that I want to finish it off with. The guy now gets frisky when I think he should be playing things like rook b3. Rook b2 is maybe similar. And I think one of the interesting lessons, if you will, is that by getting frisky here, he gives me some chances that are going to lead to, let's say, the end game. And it's, I don't know if, you can imagine even the sitter who is committed to sitting will want to spice it up at some point. And that's what he does here. a4. And now I trade it off. And we get this business. I still think it's equal. And I think he should decline the trade of queens because my queen's kind of in a weird business over there in queen b3. But he takes. And now maybe I'm a touch better because of the weakness of the a-pawn and the slightly better rook. I'll just show you what happened. I think white can still hold this thing, but here we go. This is the miserable thing that happened. I'm sure both sides could improve. Right around here, yeah, here he offered me a draw, and funnily enough, like now he has a problem, and he just clearly missed that the knight could come back. And I do this kind of thing. And now I think I'm, let's say, clearly better or winning. And now I don't know if I'm going to cover this position on a future show, but this was the next struggle, right? This was the next struggle for me. The other thing I don't know is I don't know where I'm going to be in a couple days. On Friday, I'm supposed to go late night to St. Louis. Will all the airlines be canceled? I have no idea. But in any case, probably, the hope is, next week I'll be doing the show from St. Louis, and yeah, we'll take it from there. In general, I want to say the improvement plan's been going well. At the very least, I've been enjoying going over the games, and it seems like it's been a productive kind of thing. Let me just give a shout out to my schedule here, just so Panda and everybody else can see. There's this GM in residence thing coming up, and I'm hoping to play this tournament at the end of March there, but that's like my next event that I could well imagine that there's going to be like that they might just say no tournaments at all. Several tournaments are getting canceled now. So that would be a major bummer. I think even if I play, I'm gonna have some duties at the club, and they're gonna be like, "No, you got to take some buys." Fine. In any case, that's my schedule. I hope to see you guys next week. It was really interesting. I did end up drawing this game. It was the longest game of my life, over 160 moves, and very painful. If I do cover this game again, it will talk about the next phase of the game, which was the ending, which I somehow did not win. And he held. He was a very good sitter in the final thing, because I really did press it till the wee hours of the night there. All right, Kostya, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.